It was a quiet Sunday morning in Millstone Hollow, a sleepy riverside town nestled among pine-covered hills and winding dirt backroads. The sunlight glimmered across the calm surface of the river like liquid gold, casting reflections that danced gently on the muddy banks. Children's laughter echoed in the distance, mingling with the soft splash of fishing lines and the solemn toll of church bells from the town chapel perched on a grassy knoll. Everything about that morning whispered peace, a slow, unhurried rhythm that lulled folks into forgetting the outside world. But that illusion was shattered before noon. Caleb Strickland sat alone on a weather-worn bench overlooking the river, elbows on knees, his gray hoodie pulled low against the rising sun. His boots were caked with dried mud. His jeans bore signs of honest labor, and the deep set of his eyes spoke of a man who had carried more weight than most. To anyone watching, Caleb appeared to be resting, maybe reflecting, or simply enjoying a rare moment of solitude. But to officers Brent Halvorsen and Matt Deeks, he looked like a problem. Their cruiser slowed as they turned the corner, tires crunching over loose gravel. Halvorsen, the senior of the two and long emboldened by unchecked power, leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. "You see that?" he muttered to Deeks, who was younger, still eager to imitate the assertive posture of his mentor. "Yeah," Deeks replied. "Doesn't look like he's from around here." Caleb wasn't trespassing. He wasn't disturbing anyone. He wasn't blocking traffic or loitering near any homes. He was sitting, calmly, watching the river roll by. But that didn't matter. With a screech of tires, the cruiser jerked to a stop. Doors slammed. Gravel scattered under heavy boots. There were no polite greetings, no questions. Only suspicion masked as authority. "Hey," Halvorsen barked. His voice cracked like a dry whip. "What are you doing here?" Caleb turned his head slowly. His voice was steady, measured, just sitting. He replied. Halvorsen stepped forward, bristling. "This is private property." Caleb didn't look at him. "No signs say that." Deeks moved to Caleb's other side, his hand resting too close to his holster. "You need to leave. Now." Caleb stood up, slowly, deliberately. His hands remained open and visible. "I'm not looking for trouble," he said calmly. "Just getting some air." Halvorsen sneered. "You've been warned." And then it all shifted, fast and violent. Without hesitation, Halvorsen grabbed Caleb's arm and twisted it behind his back. "You're resisting," Deeks shouted, though Caleb hadn't moved. "I'm not," Caleb replied firmly. "I'm standing here." A shove, another hand, then chaos. They dragged him toward the riverbank. Caleb's boots skidded in the dirt as he tried to maintain balance. "Stop," he barked. "You don't want to do this." But they did. With one final shove, Halvorsen sent him over the edge. The river swallowed him. Cold surged through him like a fist to the chest. Caleb sank beneath the surface, his hands cuffed, lungs clenching. But he didn't panic. His training took over, because Caleb Strickland wasn't just a drifter. He was a retired Navy SEAL, a man forged in fire, conditioned for survival. Underwater, he stayed still. Let the current pull him just far enough before he kicked off a submerged rock and twisted his body, angling his shoulder to reduce drag, using the flow to steer toward the opposite bank. The metal cuffs bit into his wrists, but he didn't flinch. Above him, the officers stood by the edge. Halvorsen lit a cigarette. Deeks looked away. "That's that," Halvorsen muttered. "Let's go." They never saw Caleb re-emerge. Downstream, he surfaced quietly, lungs screaming for air. He inhaled once, then vanished into the trees. The hours ticked by. Then days. The department filed a vague report. "Man drowned while resisting arrest," the NO press release. No investigation, just silence. But witnesses along the riverbank had seen it all. A few caught the moment on shaky cell phone footage. The cuffs, the shove, the splash, and the officers walking away. Still, they said nothing. Millstone Hollow wasn't the kind of place where people crossed the sheriff's office. But they had made a mistake. They hadn't drowned a stranger. They had tried to murder a soldier in a cabin deep in the forest. Caleb tended to his wounds. A gash over his eyebrow, a bruised rib. But the deeper wound burned in his chest. He watched the video again and again. Saw his head vanish beneath the water. Saw the timestamp. heard the panicked gasps at the end that he picked up a secure satellite phone and dialed. It rang twice. "Caleb?" A voice answered. "I'm alive," Caleb said. On the other end was Aaron Wade, a former SEAL turned cybersecurity expert. No questions were needed. Caleb gave coordinates. By nightfall, Aaron had arrived with solar batteries, satellite uplinks, and rations. But most importantly, data, bodycam footage, dispatch logs, radio chatter. It was all there, segments cut, audio muted, time stamps manipulated. "They've done this before," Aaron said darkly. "You're not the first." They stayed up all night connecting dots, compiling files, identifying patterns, dozens of incidents, dozens of names, mostly black men, mostly vague charges of resisting. Some missing, some dead, all quietly buried under bureaucracy. Caleb's fury crystallized into clarity. They compiled a massive dossier, not just on Halvorsen and Deeks, but their entire precinct. Their chief, the prosecutor who declined to charge in every excessive force complaint, the mayor who secured campaign funding from private prison donors. "This runs deep," Aaron muttered. "Too deep to go loud without backup." "We go loud," Caleb said, "but smart." He reached out to someone who wouldn't fold. Naomi Fletcher, an investigative journalist with a reputation for chasing corruption no matter where it led. He dropped a sealed package on her porch. Footage, photos, statements, documents. A burner phone. 2 hours later, the phone rang. "Who are you?" Naomi asked. "The man they tried to drown," Caleb replied. That night, everything changed. Naomi released the story online. The video went viral. #JusticeForCaleb trended by dawn. Protests ignited in front of the sheriff's department. National outlets picked up the story. Halvorsen and Deeks were suspended, then arrested. The chief released a statement, full of vague regret and hollow promises that no one believed it. Not after more footage leaked. Not after internal whistleblowers came forward. But Caleb wasn't done. He traced a pattern of corruption. Money transfers from private prison contractors to city officials. Policies incentivizing arrests. Racial profiling disguised as community safety. Training seminars led by a private firm called Virex Consulting. The center of it all was Conrad Blackstone, a former colonel turned CEO of Virex. Charismatic, ruthless, and very familiar. Caleb remembered him from the Middle East. Blackstone had been dangerous then. He was more dangerous now. "He's the architect," Aaron said. "Then we destroy his blueprint," Caleb replied. They set the stage at a national law enforcement summit in Washington, D.C. Blackstone was the keynote speaker. As the applause died, Caleb stepped onto the stage. The crowd fell silent. "I was declared dead 3 weeks ago," he said. "But I'm not. I'm alive. And I've come to show you what they tried to bury." He placed a thick stack of documents on the podium, and then he live-streamed everything. Unedited, undeniable. Federal agents emerged from the crowd. Blackstone was arrested on the spot. The aftermath was seismic. Halvorsen and Deeks were convicted. The police chief was removed. Statewide investigations were launched. Dozens of officers resigned. Several prosecutors were indicted for obstruction. A bronze statue now stands by the river at a man breaking through water's surface, fists open, eyes wide. The plaque reads, "Justice doesn't drown." Caleb Strickland was never seen again. Some say he left the country. Others believe he's still out there, watching, waiting, working in the shadows to expose what the light cannot. But in Millstone Hollow, they tell his story with reverence, not because he lived, but because he refused to stay silent.